Have you ever stopped to think just how fragile some of our biggest industries really are? I mean, how a single government order aimed at one specific company could actually cause car factories worldwide to just stop.
It sounds almost unbelievable, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
But that's exactly what we saw play out recently with this Nexperia situation. It's a stark reminder of global interdependency.
Exactly, and that's what we're digging into today, this sudden clash involving Nexperia, this chip supplier, the Dutch government, and crucially, its Chinese owner, WingTech.
Right.
We want to really unpack how this happened, why it caused such immediate global chaos, and maybe most importantly, what the Netherlands' quick U-turn tells us about, well, who really holds the cards in the global economy today.
And Nexperia itself, while maybe not a household name, is incredibly important. They make these specific kinds of semiconductors, the workhorse chips.
Right.
Absolutely essential for the automotive industry. Everything from engine controls to safety systems relies on them. Understanding their setup is really key here.
Okay, let's get into that structure then. Because it seems like the geography, the split location of Nexperia is what gave the parent company, WingTech, all the leverage.
That's precisely it. Nexperia has this kind of dual structure, the headquarters, the R&D, the really high-tech silicon wafer manufacturing that's based in Europe.
Okay, the sophisticated part.
Yeah, the initial fabrication.
Uh-huh.
But then those finished wafers get shipped all the way to China, and that's for the final critical step, packaging.
Packaging. That sounds simple almost.
It sounds simple, but it's absolutely vital. It's turning that raw wafer into the actual finished chip that can be soldered onto a circuit board, and then it gets sent out globally to car makers, to their suppliers, everyone.
And hanging over all this is the ownership. Nexperia is owned by WingTech, a major Chinese tech company.
Correct, fully owned. Which brings us to the flashpoint.
So, about a month ago, the Netherlands government steps in. This wasn't just a fine or a warning, right? This was them actually taking control.
Exactly. It was a direct intervention. They used their national investment review laws. The justification was concerns about the WingTech CEO's actions, transparency issues, and potential risks to, the continuity of supply, maybe even sensitive technology transfer. So they essentially seized operational control of the European side of Nexperia.
A real power move then. Asserting control over the European operations of a company owned by China. But the reaction wasn't exactly diplomatic negotiation, was it?
Not at all. It was immediate and operational. China, leveraging WingTech's ownership, basically went straight for that choke point we just talked about, the packaging in China.
Okay.
They essentially told the Chinese division, you don't report to the European HQ anymore. And the critical part, stop packaging the wafers, stop sending out finished products, full stop.
Just like that. Cut the cord.
Instantly severed the supply line.
And the fallout in the auto industry wasn't just theoretical. Plants actually started shutting down.
It was immediate and frankly devastating. The reach of these Nexperia chips is just enormous. Pretty much every major car manufacturer globally, except for Toyota, they're famously redundant.
Right, Toyota's different.
Yeah, but everyone else, they need these chips.
Yeah.
So when the supply dried up, assembly lines just seized.
And we saw specific examples cropping up everywhere, didn't we? Real-world impact.
Oh, absolutely. Honda had to shut down a whole plant in Mexico.
Oh.
Car makers in Brazil suddenly idled factories. We saw big capacity cuts in the U.S., Alabama, for instance, and major slowdowns across Europe and even in Japan itself.
It's incredible how fast that happened. A single decision in the Netherlands paralyzes factories across the globe. It really shows a lack of foresight, maybe.
A profound failure to grasp the supply chain fragility, yes.
Oh.
Which leads us neatly to the next chapter. The Dutch government's incredibly fast backtrack.
Yeah, the capitulation. It seemed like they tried this bold move, felt the immediate blowback, probably from their own industries and neighbors.
Oh, you bet. The economic pain was self-inflicted and sharp.
And they started looking for an oopsie do-over, as you put it earlier, a way to just walk it back.
The panic must have been palpable. The walk back was incredibly quick.
And we saw reports, Reuters, Bloomberg,
Yeah.
the Dutch economy minister basically saying, okay, we're ready to suspend or even just drop the order.
Yeah, Vincent Karaman, basically throwing in the towel.
But the condition for dropping it tells the real story, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The condition wasn't about negotiating terms or saving face. It was. The suspension happens if China resumes shipping the chips and verifies it, maybe as soon as next week.
So less negotiation, more begging. Please turn the taps back on.
That's essentially the posture, yes. It reveals a significant shift in perceived power.
So what is this whole episode, the bold move, the instant crisis, the rapid retreat, tell us about European power today? It feels like they acted with an old imperial mindset, but found out they just didn't have the clout anymore.
I think that's a fair assessment. It highlights a disconnect between perhaps institutional self-image and actual hard economic leverage in a globalized world. And this really brings us to a bigger point, doesn't it? Beyond just this incident, it's about the strategic thinking or lack thereof in how the West is engaging with China.
Right. It's one thing to call China a competitor, like, say, France and Germany compete. It's another to treat them as an adversary or an enemy. Right.
Exactly. If you're going to treat a major economic power, one deeply integrated into your own systems, as an enemy, your actions need to be, well, smart, strategically sound.
And this wasn't.
This was frankly inept.
Mhm.
If the goal is decoupling or asserting sovereignty or renegotiating terms, you don't start by shooting yourself in the foot so spectacularly.
You can't just seize the brain if the hands doing the work are somewhere else, controlled by the entity you're trying to strong-arm.
Precisely. It's basic supply chain reality. The control lever is often at the point of dependency. Trying to seize the European HQ without controlling the Chinese assembly was doomed from the start. It's like trying to fight someone who's inside your own house, controlling the power switch.
It's a very different scenario than, say, putting sanctions on a smaller, less integrated economy.
Oh, completely different. You can sanction, let's say, a smaller nation, and the global ripples might be minimal. The impact on your own economy might be negligible.
But China's different. They have real, immediate leverage.
Massive leverage. Think about that soybean example from a few years back.
Right.
China buys, what, $30 billion in soybeans? When tensions rose, they didn't seize anything. They just stopped buying as much, cut their orders almost in half overnight.
And the U.S. Farm Belt felt that immediately.
Devastating impact. Forced farmers to scramble for new markets for millions of tons of soybeans. That's surgical economic leverage. The Nexperia thing, where China just stopped the packaging, it's the industrial version of that. Instant, widespread pain for the other side.
Which circles back to this idea of respect. Maybe the biggest casualty here wasn't just car production, but international respect.
Absolutely, because power isn't just about strength. It's also about competence. Even adversaries respect competence and decisive, effective action. This was the opposite.
It looked clumsy, incompetent even.
It looked like a self-inflicted wound broadcast globally, and that plays right into the hands of rivals.
Yeah, China or Russia, they don't need complex disinformation campaigns when things like this happen, do they?
Why bother? They can just point. Point to the Nexperia mess. Point to other examples of, let's say, poorly executed Western policy. They weaponize our own mistakes, our own contradictions.
It reminds me of those discussions about Russian interference back in 2016. The effective stuff wasn't fake news. It was amplifying real divisions, real issues.
Exactly. Using factual vulnerabilities, policy backfires, internal conflicts, amplifying those is far more effective. And when a major European power tries a move like this, only to have it blow up immediately and then publicly plead for reversal, the loss of standing is immense.
So wrapping this up, the Nexperia saga really feels like a cautionary tale. If you're dealing with a major, deeply integrated economic player, you can't just launch attacks without a bulletproof plan B.
And without understanding where the real leverage lies, trying a cold cock strike, as it were, without securing your own vital interests first, just leads to global economic pain and, well, looking foolish on the world stage.
It shows that 21st century geopolitics is hardwired into these global manufacturing realities, doesn't it? You can't just seize a company asset if the part that makes it actually work is controlled by your target.
It's instant self-sabotage. The economic pain rebounds immediately onto you and your partners.
And if this is the kind of strategic play we're seeing from established powers, that core idea of being respected, even feared internationally, it seems to be eroding.
That loss of perceived competence, that sense that maybe they're just not that threatening anymore, could be the longest lasting damage from this whole affair. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
It certainly does. If securing a single chip supply chain proves this difficult before taking action, what does that imply for any larger ambitions of strategic decoupling down the road? Something to think about.